name is Steven Wilkinson. I live at 1668 Forest Farm Road in Kingston, Ohio.
Welcome, Steve. Welcome to the right hand.
All right. I was supposed to meet with council tonight because I was the city safety director for 7 short days. I'd like to tell you that story, how that came to be. I was summoned by Michelle Blanton and Kendra Kinney to a privately owned office at 5:15 p.m. on March 7th, 2024. I was instructed to park in the alley and enter through the back door. I was offered the position of safety director and then told my retaliation complaint was being used as one of the reasons they were going to relieve Sean Bear of duty. I was told not to discuss this at all with Valerie Dilley, as they were worried she would interfere with the investigation. At that point, a lot of other small talk went on, and at one point, Michelle asked me if I could help her get a gun. And I told her I would gladly help her get a gun and train her to use it. I was sworn in the following Friday morning and told to report to the mayor's office at 5:30 p.m. on Monday, March 11th to relieve Sean Bear of duty. 20 minutes later, Michelle called me and told me not to report to work until Tuesday at 7:30 a.m., as she would handle the safety director's responsibility for the police department till things calmed down. I reported to the office as instructed. When I arrived, there was no phone, no computer, nothing waiting for my office. I did not meet with HR that day to do any paperwork. I did not meet with Michelle until after 4 p.m. I told Michelle I wanted to start to do roll call introductions with the police and the fire department. Michelle stated she would handle the police department for now. I told Michelle I needed to correct misconduct with previous training, as firearm qualifications were commencing next week, and the police were not training to state mandate procedures. Michelle told me to clear this with Kendra Kinney. In a text, I messaged Kendra. Kendra said, okay. I also met with Kendra prior to meeting with the training sergeants. On Wednesday morning, Michelle gave me an offer letter and told me what my salary would be several days after I was hired. On Wednesday afternoon, I spoke to Sergeant Fisher and Sergeant Nicholson of the Circleville Police Department. My instructions were clear. Train to a pot of standards with no deviation. Review the policy, develop a test. I told the sergeants we would no longer send emails telling officers to educate themselves. It was our responsibility to train police officers. I gave an order to deliver last year's records for a comparative analysis to this year's firearms qualification. I also instructed Sergeant Nicholson not to utilize Ken McCoy, the South Bloomfield police officer, as he does not train to state standards. Michelle allowed the score sheets to be delivered to Kendra, directly subverting my authority as his new safety director. On Thursday, March 14th, day 3, my office still had no computer, no phone. In the 3 days I was safety director, I performed 3 official duties. I signed accounts payable, I met with the fire chief and 2 engine companies, and I gave clear direction on how training should be implemented in the police department moving forward. So we were covering state standards and mandates. At approximately 3:30 p.m. on Thursday, I watched Michelle flee and run into the middle of the street crying uncontrollably. This was the 3rd time in 3 days I witnessed Michelle lose control of her emotions and cry. At 4:15 p.m. on that day, a torrent of demands for my resignation from Michelle began. Michelle told me the police department was refusing to meet with me, refusing to work with me, and some were refusing to come to work. I told Michelle that violated the law and that violated their oaths. Michelle told me I was insubordinate to Kendra Kinney by violating an order. Well, in order for me to be insubordinate, I would have to be subordinate. I do not report, or did not report to Kendra Kinney. I reported to Michelle Blanton. Michelle then stated I was under 2 IA investigations. I replied to her that this is not a new revelation. They were filed prior to me being hired, and she was utilizing that as part of her investigation that she is utilizing to relieve Chief Bear of duty. This meeting with Michelle lasted over 2.5 hours.
Mr. Stevens, you have 30 seconds. Thank you.
This meeting, I'm sorry, you made me lose my spot there.
I'm sorry.
This meeting lasted 2.5 hours. At approximately 7 p.m., Michelle told me to leave and report the next morning. I was terminated at 7:16 a.m. Friday morning. I made Michelle, Kendra, and Valerie aware of police misconduct prior to being hired. Officers in Circleville were not qualified to apply to firearm standards. I witnessed civil rights violations, and D.C. Davis was on the Brady list in common pleas court for giving false testimony, falsifying police reports.
How much more time do you need?
Sir, I have 2 paragraphs left.
Good.
D.C. Davis is on the Brady list in common pleas court for giving false testimony, falsifying police reports, manufactured evidence, and using race as a basis for a traffic stop. No investigation has ever been initiated into Deputy Chief Davis. That is required by policy. Michelle spent thousands of taxpayer dollars to investigate me, a private citizen, for a comment I made to an off-duty police officer. The investigation was completed in February, and I was exonerated of any claim of discrimination. I've asked 4 times, and I have never received a copy of this investigation. I was also denied public records request by Chief Bear and Kendra Kinney. I asked for text messages. Text messages are public record. They were denied. If the mayor and the legal director fear the police, and I can go into that in much greater detail than what they told me, but I only had a few minutes, so I did not go into detail. If they fear the police, then there needs to be a substantial change in this city. I do not fear Sean Baird, and I do not fear the police department. I possess the knowledge and the courage to face these issues head on. I was never given that opportunity. Michelle has promoted herself to her own level of incompetence. Michelle is a coward and caved to the illegal demands of the police department. I told Michelle I had the experience, knowledge, and ability to handle the situation, as I performed tasks much more difficult than what she was currently facing. I told her to let me do the job she hired me to do. I never got the opportunity. Michelle cannot control her emotion. She breaks into crying episodes anytime things get modestly difficult. Michelle does not have the courage or experience or fortitude to handle stressful situations. Michelle embarrassed herself and showed her weakness to the public and the fire departments who were called to deal with her self-reported panic and anxiety attack. Michelle swore me in secretly, and she never announced my new role to the citizens of Circleville. Michelle utilized me as a scapegoat to get Sean Baird and terminated me to keep me from continuing to reveal police misconduct.
You almost done?
I have. Back left, sir.
Okay.
3 safety directors have been asked to resign or terminate in the past 2 years. The common denominator, attempting to hold the police department accountable. I was terminated for blowing a whistle on past misconduct and Michelle's lack of courage to address misconduct within the police department. As a 30-year retired police lieutenant and a disabled veteran,
Please speak to council.
I earn the right to be treated with a higher level of professional respect than I got from Michelle. Thank you, sir, for your time.